Hey, how's everybody going today? How's everybody doing today? Not going, but doing today. Hopefully you're doing well. This is Cisco here. What's the word for today, folks? I'm gonna go with the word perseverance, okay? Actually, playing these kind of word games, I might continue to do this over time. What's the word for today, folks? I'm gonna go with the word perseverance. All right. I'm just looking this word up on here so I can tell you guys online. Perseverance is the continued effort to do or to achieve something despite difficulties, failure, or opposition. All right. And I bring that word up because I see a lot of times I be watching a lot of videos on social media, particularly YouTube, but other outlets as well. And, I hear a lot of these guys out here, they're quitting their job for one reason or another. And I'm not one to judge each individual why they quit their job. I mean, there might be a valid reason. But I got this feeling that certainly with some of these guys are quitting their jobs because it's too tough. It's too, dealing with management and on down the line. And, I keep bringing up this goal of mine that took me about 5 years to achieve. Not to brag or anything like that, but the point behind it is that I had to persevere, okay? It took me 5 years to achieve this goal, and I did it through working different jobs. I would work here, I would work at this job. I did it for a while when I couldn't do it no more, honestly, because for some reason I've always been able to only attract, for the most part in my life, especially these past 10, 12 years, the jobs that I attract are usually these physical jobs, okay? The physical, when I say physical work, I'm talking about work where, you gotta load about 20, 25 bags of concrete on a cart. You gotta wheel that cart of concrete bags out to a car, and then you gotta load those concrete bags onto the car or truck. Like I do now, where I work at now, you gotta pull a pallet. If that pallet weighs, 3,000 pounds, I think the heaviest pallet I ever moved, I think it was close to 3,500 pounds. Sometimes they have stickers on them, and on those stickers they have the weight of that pallet. So that's how I'm able to judge how much weight I'm pulling around on any given day. Cumulatively, I might be pulling around at my job right now. I might pull around 10,000 pounds a day, something like that. 8,000, 10,000 pounds a day. I just don't know. But I do know it's a substantial amount of weight that I'm pulling around every day, let alone unloading the 18-wheeler. All right, so I bring my struggles up because I'm one of those people, especially successful people, or people striving to be successful. I think it's more important to listen to their grind, what they go through, what they went through to get to the point that they are in life, than it is to only look at their results. Always, sure, there are some people out there, I won't lie to you, there are some people out there who are nepo babies, nepotism. Sure, there are some people that have benefited from being born into wealth. Yeah, for sure. But that's not the case with everybody. Somebody like me, it took me, oh God, like I say, 5 years, and I had to work different jobs because a lot of these jobs were so damn physical. One job I had at that steel mill, oh boy, that was brutal. I only lasted there maybe a few months, but it allowed me to get further along in my goal. And I only stayed there a few months, but boy, lifting those steel coils could weigh as little as 20 pounds, 25 pounds. The heaviest steel coil I saw in that place was about 600. I kid you not, 600 pounds. All right, now at that place they did have cranes where you can lift that crane up, but at the same time you also have to steer. You have to steer that steel coil that's in the air to get it where you want to place it. Because Lord knows you don't want to, push it and somebody's walking along and you hit them with that steel coil. God knows you don't want to do that. But I mean, that goes to show what I went through, some of the stuff that I went through to, achieve my goal. You have to persevere, man. It's like, it's okay to be, it's okay that if you have a job and you're trying to get a goal done, you have a job, the job's so physical, you can't really do it anymore, but you rest up, maybe you take a weekend off or something like that. Rest up if you can afford it, and you go out there, you look for something else. But I always had the most important thing, I guess where I'm getting at, is that I always had that goal in mind. Okay, so I knew, I was like, well, what do I got to do? Okay, I got this physical job here. I need to save up as much money as I can, before I get too tired. And I mean, it like I say, jumping from place to place to place to place, but ultimately it did work. It did work. And like I say today, man, I'm just adding to it. But the underlying thing here is that, folks, you gotta persevere on these jobs. You really do to if you want, hey, go out there. And my ideology is, hey, work at a job and try to work your way out of that job, or work your way out of that field. Just because you're a janitor, and I've done that, just because you're a janitor doesn't mean you have to be a janitor for life. Yeah, you got to think like that. Keep striving. To use a baseball analogy, baseball is my second love. Okay, football is my number one. It used to be pro wrestling was my number one love, but that's another topic for another day, which I will make a topic about that one. But baseball is my second love, okay? And the best hitters in the game, they only hit, for the most part, they usually hit above 300 for the whole year. Nobody's hit 400 in my lifetime. Nobody's ever batted 500 for a season. But the thing is like, you have to keep going. You have to keep stepping up to the plate. And you gotta take swings. You gotta duck. You gotta duck from a ball that's coming for your head. Sometimes the ball might hit you in the torso or whatever. And I'm using this as figure of speech, not literal. But you got to be willing to get up every morning and keep going. So I told you about one of my videos where I was saying I was bullied on one of these jobs that I had. I call it the crazy place. I hate, if a psychologist or a psychiatrist was looking at this video, I hate to use the word bullying because I think that's a little bit extreme, what I went through. bullying to me, it's it can be physical for sure. It can be physical. It could be emotional, all this. Well, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to accept the definition of bullying. I'm going to accept it. I never liked the word bullying, but you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to accept it. I'm going to accept it. But at that crazy place, that was some crazy ass people. Pardon the language, folks, for some of you, but that was some crazy people. How did I manage at that place? I had to persevere. All right. So what I did there, sorry. But what I did there, man, I went into work every day. For starters, it was bad, but guess what? I went into work every day. I thought about, when it got really bad, I thought about, hey, just take the day off, where you ain't gotta deal with it. Which technically, you could do, but the thing is, what about tomorrow? Okay, today is Friday, yeah, you get a long weekend, but you still gotta go back there Monday morning. So it's like, I didn't want to develop that mentality of, okay, I can run and all this stuff. I was like, no. So I kept going in, and it got to a point where I realized, ain't nobody looking out for me, because I usually like to be Mr. Nice Guy. And what I mean by that, I try to go about stuff the professional way. If somebody's bothering you or something, hey, you tell them that doesn't work. Hey, go to management. If that doesn't work, which you got to be to the extreme at that place. When management doesn't have your back, you got to start looking out for yourself. I had to persevere. I had to go out there and say, hey, you know what? I'm taking over this. I'm saying, hey, I walked into management office. I said, hey, y'all need to fix that. You need to fix it. I walked to the guys. Hey, I got a problem with this guy right here. And I did do this. I went up to him. I said, hey, you keep doing this. Pardon the language, folks, but you keep doing this shit, I'm going to beat your ass. That's what I said to him. And of course, he came back and wanted to act all tough and all that. But I went to him and I told him point blank. I said, that's what I'm going to do. Walked away. All right. So, that job taught me a lot. I do. Now, why did I leave that place? Ultimately, why did I leave that place? I left that place because, hey, remember, folks, I have a goal that's in, I have a goal, all right? So if I imagine this, and by the way, folks, this video right here, it's not advice. I'm not telling you what to do or any of that. I'm just telling you my story, okay? So I don't want y'all to look. I'm no doctor. I'm no psychologist. I'm no psychiatrist. I'm no MD. I'm none of that. I have no letters after my last name. All right. So I want to make that explicitly clear. All right. But I decided to leave that place ultimately because I saw that nothing was changing. Nothing was changing. Management still didn't give a damn. The employees, you told them point blank, they still don't give a damn. And I was thinking, I was like, well, Cisco, you could fight somebody, win the fight. You could be vindicated in a court of law. Okay. A judge could say, well, looking at the circumstances, blah, 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 blah. You were right. You were right. They could have said that if I chose to go down that road. But there were two reasons why I chose not to fight, and I chose to leave that place. For starters, first of all, I have that big goal. Second of all, if you get into a fight at work, imagine you go on your application for a job. They're like, tell us about your last job at your last location. Yeah, blah, blah, blah. Got into a fight with this guy, got fired. Now, how's that gonna look? You see, how is that going to look at that future employer that you got into a fight? Although you might have been right, you might have been justified, you might have got proven right in a court of law. How's that going to look? You know, sometimes in life, it's like you got to think about stuff. I try to think about stuff. Now, do I think about stuff? Am I always right in everything I think about? No. But you got to think about stuff. So, weighing that big goal that I had in the back of my mind, I just said, you know what? I just put in my 2-week notice. Decided to leave, resign that place. I wouldn't recommend that place to the world. No, I'm not going to tell you the place where I worked at, folks. Try to protect myself from any legal, legal ramifications. But that was a crazy place, But I persevered because I feel like I did because, hey, I kept going in. It's like, my mentality was, you gotta, you don't want to keep, you don't want to crawl up in a fetal position, but at the same time, you don't want to do anything criminal as well. So you got to weigh your options. You got to try to go about stuff the right way, the correct way. While I'm on the subject, what helped me get through it? I never really had it bad. Having a modest support network, I don't have a psychologist or anything like that. But, Ma was there. I had a couple other people. But, like I say, it never got to the point where, hell, I'm crying on people's shoulders. None of that stuff. No. I do believe, this is another thing when you get on these jobs. It's like, hey, where I'm at now, do people like me there? No. But at the same time, I'm not gonna take people's snobby attitude. I mean, you're gonna talk to me with respect. Like I say, I'm not a favorite guy there. No, nobody really talks to me. Got like maybe 1 or 2 people there that I talk to, but I mean, it's okay. It is what it is. I usually tend to stay to myself, not looking to bother anybody, nothing like that. But you got to command respect. And sometimes it's like in life, I've learned sometimes in life it's okay. Like I did at that job, it's okay to quit. Now the situation might have been different if I was a parent. If I'm a single father, or if I'm married or whatever, but you got kids, and let's say maybe my wife was sick and couldn't work, and I was the only person bringing in income, I mean, those decisions are tough. A decision like that is tough. I have no kids, I have no wife, so the decision was easier. But, I've learned sometimes in life, it's okay to step back. It's okay to quit under different circumstances. But I would say I have persevered somewhat through life. Yeah, I'll say that. Have I faced every battle? Have I faced tougher battles? As some people, no. But, it's okay. I've learned, that's one thing I've learned in life. It's okay to quit sometimes. Not all the time. But, what I did when I left that job, picked up, I do remember when I left that job, I mean, for days I was wondering, that stuff ain't right, man. Why did I have to quit and they still have their job and all that? But, as time goes on, time is a good thing for the most part. As time goes on, it gets off your chest. It goes from the front part of your mind to the back part of your mind. and eventually you just, it gets off, it gets off your mind. It's but like I say, man, I ain't worried about it, but Perseverance, the title, or what will be the title of this video, it's like you gotta persevere in life, folks. You really do. You gotta have some tough skin. You do. Every situation is different. I'm just here, speaking my testimony. That's all I'm doing. Like I say, this video it's not meant to be as advice, okay? It's not meant to be advice. I'm not a doctor. I'm not telling you what to do. But I just wanted, to put my opinion out there. My testimony, my opinion. But you got it, like I say, you got to persevere in life. Look at it this way. No matter who you are, black, white, you're here for a reason. All right. If you think about your ancestors, whether they lived hundreds of years ago or whether they lived 50 years ago, you got here through perseverance. Especially, I'm a black man. I'm not trying to bring race into this, but you got here somehow. If you look at the times that black people went through, slavery and all that stuff, you had to persevere to get through it. I'm not saying it's right. For damn sure, I'm not saying that. But black people back in the day, you had to persevere. Especially if any of your baby boomers are alive, you black people that are baby boomers, if y'all are still alive today, you see this video, I'm sure y'all had to persevere through Jim Crow. So even if you're white, it's maybe you live, or your parents lived in a trailer park, and maybe they can tell you stories of what they went through to get to where they are today. So I'm not making this video about race, but I wanted to throw that in to kind of justify, if I'm using that word correctly, what perseverance is all about. So, I'm like, to all you young people out there, black, white, Native American, Hispanic, doesn't matter. You got to persevere, okay? I see some of y'all on these jobs. I'm not saying, if you got fired from your job that it was justified. And I've been there too. I've been fired. I'll go on the record and say that. But what you got to do is like, hey, you got to persevere. Lick your wounds, so to speak. Go out there and start, as some people say, hit the pavement. Hit the pavement means go out there and look for another job. So I know it's not easy. But I think some of y'all can make it, man. Hell, I think everybody can make it. But I just see some of these videos on YouTube, especially, man. I'm like, 9 to 5, it's rough. It's rough out there. It's rough. But I would say to y'all, hey, you don't, just because you have a job doesn't mean you have to keep it forever. Go out there, hey, go get on the internet. Find a local college, local university, see what programs they offer. Do that. There's always a way out. If you want to get your business running, if you want to start a business, hey, go out there, work towards a goal. Figure out how much money you think you might need. Go from there. Talk to people in that career field, okay? So there's stuff you can do. Like I say, you don't have to stay on a 9 to 5 job forever, all right? I mean, if some of you want to, that's you. There's nothing wrong with that. But, I just wanted to put that out there, okay? You got to persevere in life, man. You got to persevere. You got to have, you just have to dig. You got to dig deep down in your soul, deep down in your spirit. Lord knows I do that every day at my job. I just say, hey, man, I'm going to try to will this out today. I'm going to try to use my willpower to get through. Because I'd be hurting. I'd be, ooh, boy. one of these days I might tell you in detail what I go through at that place. But it's just hey, you got to be strong-minded. You got to be strong-minded. Strength, a lot of times, this is about, I made a video about women, how women are strong too. Strength, a lot of times, it's not exterior, okay? Just because you see a bodybuilder, they got a six-pack, they got ripped abs, they got ripped arms, ripped legs. Yeah, that is strength, but at the same time, strength can be internal, okay? It can be inside. They call it willpower, so, or when it gets real tough for me, I call it soul power, so, you just have to say, you know what, I can do it. So once again, I'm gonna go ahead and sign off, because this is 26 minutes I've been blabbering about. But like I say, this video, if you've made it to the end, it is not meant to be advice. I don't know how to do graphics and all of that right now, so I can only tell you through my videos. But this video is not meant to be advice. It's just, it's I guess motivational in a way, but it's not meant to be advice. Do not go out there and do anything criminal, right? Let me make that very clear. Do not go out there and do anything criminal. I'm not an advocate for criminal activity, none of that stuff, all right? Do not go out there and become a criminal, all right? But I just wanted to throw my testimony out there for y'all. Maybe this can help you. And I encourage y'all, if you can't afford, like I can't afford a psychologist, man. Go out there, hey, find somebody. Hopefully you have somebody you can talk to, man. Whether it's a friend, whether it's a cousin, whoever, old school teacher, anybody. Talk to somebody, That's all you got to do, man. And then if you can't, just try to, I encourage you to try to find somebody to talk to. But I hope, if you are going through something like I went through at that crazy place, hopefully, find somebody to talk to, get out. But, just remember, everybody, should be able to persevere through life, okay? I'm not justifying whatever you going through is right. I'm not validating it. But what I am saying is that, hey, go out there and persevere. Work towards a better future. I think y'all can do it, man. If I can do it, y'all can do it. I've been through a lot of stuff, a lot of physical stuff. But, all is well. Hopefully it'll be with you. Remember, don't do anything criminal, all right? Y'all be good. Bye-bye.